The moment she walked onto the set, the digital knives came out. It was a cold, high-pressure broadcast studio in Atlanta, far removed from the tropical warmth of her home. The camera lights, usually symbols of opportunity, felt like spotlights on her vulnerability. Her name was Leila Ramos, a Filipino journalist who had just secured her first international correspondent role. But within seconds of her debut on a major global news network, the internet was already in a frenzy. The criticism wasn't about her reporting skills or her facts, it was about her voice. The words flowed clearly, but they carried the distinct melodic rhythm of the Philippines, and to the purists and the prejudiced, that was a fatal flaw. They laughed. They mocked her accent, her perfect enunciation, and her measured pace. They called her tone too sing-song, her delivery unprofessional. The noise was deafening, threatening to drown out a lifetime of dedication in a single viral moment of cruelty. Leila had fought her entire life for this microphone. She grew up in a coastal province, practicing news scripts late at night, the radio static her only tutor. Her parents, simple fisherfolk, saved every peso to buy her textbooks, fueling a dream that seemed impossibly distant. She didn't have the luxury of expensive elocution coaches. Her voice was a product of passion, perseverance, and the rich linguistic tapestry of the Visayas. This dream wasn't just hers. It was the quiet hope of a million Filipino professionals who use their English proficiency to build bridges across the globe, only to have their authenticity questioned. The immediate, vicious backlash felt like a rejection of an entire nation's effort, a dismissal of the universal human truth that clarity and conviction matter more than inherited accent. That night, Leila cried. She considered quitting, letting the fear silence her. But then came the flood of counter-messages, a surge of solidarity from the Filipino diaspora and unexpected viewers across the world. An older Filipino nurse in Canada messaged her, "Leila, your voice is the sound of my courage." A college student in the Middle East wrote, "Don't change a thing. Your accent sounds like home." It was in that moment she realized her voice was no longer just her own, it was a representation. A silent standard-bearer for a global community who understood that communication is about heart, not heritage. She made a vow that night she would train harder, she would polish her delivery, but she would never erase the Filipino melody from her English. She would turn the mockery into motivation. Leila's shift from being a target of ridicule to a beloved anchor became a masterclass in professional authenticity. She started focusing intensely on the content of her reports, injecting a level of genuine empathy that felt revolutionary in the often sterile environment of international news. When she covered a natural disaster in Southeast Asia, her report wasn't just statistics and logistical updates, it was a deeply felt connection to the human cost, a shared understanding of community loss and recovery, which is the very essence of Bayanihan. She spoke with the raw, emotional truth that comes from knowing what it is like to stand on unstable ground. Viewers felt it instantly. Unlike many of her colleagues, who delivered the news with robotic detachment, Leila's voice carried a warmth and sincerity that broke through the screen. Her measured pace, the very quality that was initially criticized, became her greatest asset. It forced the listener to slow down, to absorb the weight of the story, and to feel the human connection. She didn't just read headlines, she connected with the humanity behind them. This authenticity began to resonate powerfully with global audiences who were tired of feeling lectured or talked down to by traditional news voices. Her segment ratings began to climb steadily. The comments shifted from scorn to praise. "She's the only one I trust," one viewer tweeted. "Her voice sounds like someone actually cares." The network's producers, initially cautious, quickly realized they had stumbled upon a gold standard in global communication. Leila's unique tone wasn't just palatable, it was actively sought out. Her English was clear, precise, and easily understood by both native speakers in America and English speakers across Asia, Africa, and Europe. It bridged the gap. The very neutrality and absence of a heavy regional dialect traits that are foundational to Filipino English proved to be the perfect tonal choice for a network aiming for universal appeal. Her accent was no longer a liability, It was a unique selling proposition. This organic success forced the network to re-evaluate its entire hiring strategy, finally prioritizing connection over traditional accent conformity.
The turning point that solidified Lila's legacy came during a high-stakes, breaking news event, a hostage crisis unfolding live. The newsroom was chaos, with information coming in sporadically and conflicting reports flying around. Lila was live on air, acting as the primary anchor. In the middle of the confusing broadcast, a decision had to be made about which source to trust. While veteran anchors might have succumbed to the pressure and rushed the narrative, Lila maintained her signature measured composure. Her deliberate, unhurried cadence, once mocked, now became an anchor of calm in the storm. She paused, took a visible breath, and delivered a crucial update with absolute clarity, ensuring every single word was understood and minimizing panic. That broadcast went viral not for the crisis itself, but for Lila's steady, authoritative presence. Her professionalism was indisputable, and her Filipino rhythm, far from being distracting, provided a sense of control and reliability that the audience desperately craved. The network, recognizing her exceptional performance, promoted her to a primetime slot, giving her a show dedicated to covering untold stories of resilience from the developing world. The premise of this show was simple: give a platform to the unseen. Lila used her new influence to spotlight the exact kind of communities she came from, championing the same spirit of discard that fueled her own journey. Her success sent shockwaves throughout the global media landscape. It challenged the decades-old dominance of the polished, often homogenized American and British broadcast voice. It proved a powerful thesis: the world doesn't want another perfect, detached robot reading the news. It wants real people, with real voices, who speak with heart and conviction. Lila became a movement, inspiring thousands of journalists of color and non-native English speakers to pursue their dreams without feeling compelled to mask their heritage. She demonstrated that authenticity, when backed by uncompromising skill, will always triumph over bias. The global conversation was shifting, fueled by her courage. Lila Ramos's story became more than just a career success. It became a symbol of cultural reclamation. She became a source of immense pride for the Filipino nation, a public figure who refused to compromise her identity for international acceptance. During an interview years later, a seasoned journalist suggested she had finally perfected the American broadcast accent. Lila's response was immediate and definitive. She smiled, looked straight into the camera, and said, "The world has enough American voices. What it needs now is a Filipino voice." That quote became legendary, circulating instantly on social media and being printed on t-shirts. It was an unapologetic declaration of self-worth that resonated across every continent. Her courage inspired the network itself, leading to a visible shift in their hiring practices. They began actively seeking out anchors and correspondents from diverse linguistic backgrounds, recognizing that a mosaic of accents better reflects the global audience they serve. Lila had fundamentally changed the definition of what a professional news voice sounds like. She shattered the glass ceiling of accent bias and built a permanent, visible stage for those who followed her. The mockery had become the motivation, and the critics had been proven tragically wrong. Lila's legacy extended to the education system back home. Her image and story were used in Philippine schools as a primary example of perseverance and national pride. Students who once felt self-conscious about their accent were now encouraged to embrace it, realizing that their unique rhythm was now a respected voice on the world stage. She had not only achieved her personal dream, but had fundamentally validated the way an entire nation speaks, turning a perceived weakness into a globally recognized strength. She demonstrated that cultural background is not a barrier to excellence, but the very source of it. Years later, at a Global Journalism Awards ceremony, Lila was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award. She walked onto the stage in a stunning, traditional Filipiniana gown, her head held high. The applause was thunderous, an acknowledgement not just of her reporting, but of the cultural battle she had won. Her acceptance speech was short, deeply emotional, and focused entirely on the power of truth and authenticity. She looked out at the audience, which included the senior anchors who had once quietly doubted her, and spoke softly into the microphone. "They once laughed at my accent," she began, her voice steady and clear, "but today, That same voice is heard by millions, speaking the truth that matters. She paid tribute to her parents and the collective spirit of the Filipino people. Her message to the young people watching was simple and absolute. Never let fear or prejudice silence your truth. Your voice, exactly as it is powerful enough to change the world. Her final words were a profound closing argument in her decade-long case against cultural bias. Lila Ramos's journey is a powerful reminder that the fight for representation is often fought word by word, inflection by inflection. She did not succeed by sounding like someone else. She succeeded by doubling down on who she was. She proved that the world craves sincerity, and that a voice speaking with heart and clarity will always cut through the noise of perfection. She transformed a moment of global ridicule into a lasting legacy of cultural validation. The girl from the small fishing town became the compassionate, respected voice of truth, redefining what it means to be a global news anchor and forever changing the sound of American media. Her victory was a triumph for authenticity everywhere.